In the last MobiFlight video, I showed you how to make a potentiometer work with Flight Simulator 2020. But if you don't have Flight Simulator 2020 or want to take it to the next level, you can follow this tutorial and we'll show you how you can connect it to any simulator and how you can use interpolations with potentiometers. So let's hop into MobiFlight, and first of all, I have a potentiometer. I'll just assign it to like AO, leave the sensitivity, connect the middle pin to AO, connect one of the sides to ground and one of the sides to positive. This is the wiring, and I kind of explained a little more in the potentiometer video if you haven't seen it already. Back into MobiFlight, we're going to create an inputs tab. This is going to be the potentiometer position variable. So this is going to be what the potentiometer reads. We'll even say read. Go to edit, and now under input, just skip those two tabs, select your Arduino, select your device, so an analog input, and select MobiFlight variable. This is the first time we've actually used this on the channel, and this is a perfect use case for this. So what we want is we want this potentiometer position to be read. And so what we can do is say we can say my variable, and we can name it whatever we want. In my case, I'm going to say throttle. I think that's a nice use case. So what are we going to do with it though? We're going to say at, or the at sign. So this, if you look right here, the dollar signs, it tells it what value it's supposed to be, and the at says what the input value is. So it's reading the potentiometer's position right now. This is super awesome because we can now read the potentiometer's position. If we go to press OK, make sure it's activated, and go under settings, general, logging enabled, and debug. Now we can see all of the values changing. So it's values of like 200 all the way up to about 1022. This is supposed to be within values of 0 to 1023. So this is kind of a shortened range for my potentiometer. Maybe it got worn out or is not calibrated well. Should be within a value of 0 to 1023. Mine is a little less than that, but it should be okay for our purposes. Now the fun stuff happens. We can go under output and we can click throttle right. So this is what gets written to the throttle. I'm splitting it into read and write. So this basically reads what potentiometer position we're at and then spits it out to the output. Let's click edit and go into sim. I've been interrupted like 10 times. It's been 1 minute. So once we press edit, we're inside of this menu, and then we can hop over right into MobiFlight variable. I have to admit, you won't use MobiFlight variable very much in your MobiFlight career, but it's a very powerful thing. I'm back! They're watching Hercules and I'm left out, but it's okay. Okay, so the sim variable tab, you can think of it right here. Sim variable, this is where you put your variable in this case. Not most cases though, so click MobiFlight variable, have it match up with whatever you used last time. So this is a number because under inputs we set it to a number. And we can use this little selection arrow right here to select what we used. This is very handy because whenever I'm typing something out for the second time, I type it wrong. I'm like, that, I think that's what I named it. But no, just click the drop down and select your name. So now you can see the workflow kind of start to take shape. Basically, it goes from this inputs tab right here. It reads what position you're at, spits that out as a variable, and that variable later gets read right here. And then what should we have this variable do? That's what we say in the display tab. So this display tab by default gives you an output device. That's like a servo or a stepper motor or an LED. But we want an input device because this is a potentiometer. It's something you input into the sim. Now, we have two options here, on press and on release versus on change. So on press is like a button, and on change is a potentiometer. So you kind of have to remember which one it is. It's on change because you're changing the value instead of pressing or releasing a button. Now under on change, you can select an action type. For good time's sakes, let's use an FSUIPC offset. I'm using XPUIPC in this case with X-plane, just so I can, you know, have fun with it. So let's see, we want probably throttle. I wasn't joking when I said I was bad at spelling, I guess. But we can look through these. Auto throttle, not what we want. Engine 1 throttle lever from -4096 to 16384. Here's the code, 088C, size in bytes 2. Paste it in there. Size in bytes 2. Set the value to just $. So that should work out in our favor. In fact, if we turn off offline mode, that's this little check mark right there. It should be gray. So we're up in the sim, or I guess down in the sim. We haven't gone anywhere. If we click run and notice this sim status is check marked. If it's not a check mark, look at my how to install MobiFlight video. You might need like FSUIPC for X-plane or FSX. Okay, so we are here. Now, I want to show you something. It should work a little bit, but it won't work a lot of the way. So, technically, it is working, just not a lot. And I'll show you why. It's because this value over here does not map well to this value over here, 16383. I'll show you why. So if we click edit and go to transform, say $ times 10, say just that number, we will see it work a little bit better. Or not. I stand corrected. And this is where a little bit of math comes into play. You can't escape it, I'm sorry. But we have this sim variable. We don't have the transformation ticked or anything. We have this display variable. We just have the set value to $. And under compare, we have this interpolation setting. So this is kind of like a create your own adventure table where you like put in your input, put in your output, and it tries to match it the best it can. So our input is the minimum value on the potentiometer. If we look down here, it's 274 is what I'm seeing. So 274 is about the minimum value. The maximum value is 1020. You can see that right here. The minimum output value is actually -4096. I don't know if it likes negatives or not, so we're going to figure this out shortly. You can learn with me. And the maximum is 16384. Just make sure it's checked, click OK, and press run. So now... Oh! And... this was a really weird use case, and I find that a great learning opportunity. I just duplicated the row I have right now, and I'll show you the old way of doing things without negative values. So this started from -4096 all the way up to 16383, 384 actually. And then on here, we just have an @ sign to read the value. This @ sign just reads the value from the sim variable, and that's how everything works out. So this gives a peculiar type of motion. So when you're all the way left with your potentiometer, and you turn it right, you get the nice action you're supposed to. But once it hits a stop, it goes forward, which is not what's supposed to happen. Kind of gets this boing. So like it like hits a stop and then comes back. That's because MobiFlight doesn't like negative numbers. It's kind of the way it's calculated, I believe. But if we find this minimum position right here, let's see, or where the throttle is the minimum. Let's say it's right around here. We pull out the throttle here. It's basically at its 0 point. So what's up with that? It's going to its 0 and then bouncing back. The way I solved this was to add and subtract this negative 4096. If we go back to our fancy PDF, what's right here? It goes from negative 4096 to 16384. So what I did was take this positive value and subtract it with the negative value, negative 4096. That minus that, and I get 12,288. I then put this number right here, boom, and I left this value right here at negative 4096. So when I go to display, it's saying that for all values, add 4096. That makes it all positive. Once it's at its positive stop, I just subtracted the max, this 4096 from the largest stop, so it won't go past its stop. So what we did was have our throttle travel, we shifted everything up, and then I basically shifted the top stop back down, so we could have our area right here that we could linger in. This way it doesn't bounce back. So now if we click run, we will see when we use our potentiometer, full throttle, and then if we turn it right, it goes all the way down to the bottom. So this is great. If you want to flip around the axis, there's two ways to do it. Flip the positive and negative wires, or you can go into the configuration and under compare, switch the output values right here. So set this one there and this one here, and now it switched, so it gives you like your normal throttle. So there we have it. You can use a potentiometer for basically anything. Thank you so much to Steve Pavey for providing me with the instructions to basically do this, and it was super awesome to figure out for the first time. You can also see this done if you need another use case on the Captain Bob Flight Sim Expo webinar, where we did the flaps construction and configuration all live. Check out the link to that in the description below if you haven't already. Also check out the write-up Steve Pavey did. It's really in-depth and really awesome. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe and maybe join the Patreon. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Now we just hope that everything recorded.